Today I'm going to be learning a little bit about the Norwegian language and in particular Norwegian accents and dialects. So of course every country accents and dialects vary geographically around the country. So I'm interested to learn a little bit more. Tell me what your opinion is on Norwegian accents and dialects. What do you think? Is there any dialects or accents in Norway that you find difficult to understand? What do you think's the coolest? What do you think's the funniest? I'm from Scotland. I'm from Glasgow. I find it difficult to understand Scottish people from very north in Scotland. They use very different words and language. So interested to learn more about that with regards to Norway.
Primarily served in the west and the north in Norway. And I generally split up Norway as the west, north, and east. All over TV and radio, they speak Eastern Norwegian. And to describe Eastern Norwegian, it sounds very sing-songy, very light. If you've ever heard the Swedish Chef from the Muppets and how he goes do 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 do, it's a little bit like that. I generally tried to hold an Eastern dialect because since it's on TV and radio, everyone could understand me if I spoke that dialect. In the West, they have different words for things than compared to the East. However, their pronunciation is the most difficult part, and so they take their R's and they scar them, meaning if you think of a German R, they have it back in their throat. They do that with all of their R's in the West. And that can be very difficult for some missionaries who have been taught by MTC teachers that are speaking Eastern dialect. So that's something to get used to. Northern dialect has a special place in my heart. I served both winters up in the north, which was a difficult experience, but I have such warm feelings towards it. Northerners generally speak more slowly and more comfortably, it seems, but also it's more nasal. It's more forward in the nose. Like for example, one of our favorite phrases from the north is "I come fra Buda," which means "I come from Buddha," but it's a very nasally, somewhat Asian sounding dialect. Yeah, that's the north. Okay, so this is probably going to sound terrible because I know that all my Norwegian friends are going to be listening to this, and yeah, they're going to think that was a terrible Western dialect. I'll say, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I will say I come from Bergen in Norwegian, in the three dialects. Okay, so in the Eastern dialect, I would say Jeg kommer fra Bergen, which would be a total lie, because if you're from Bergen, you're very proud of your dialect. If you're actually from Bergen, you'd say Jeg kommer fra Bergen. I'll say that again, just in case. Can you really hear the difference there? Jeg kommer fra Bergen. And then in the north, you would say Jeg kom fra Bergen. Jeg kom fra Bergen. That
actually sounds a bit Scottish as well. It's interesting, like in Scotland, for instance, we're so small, but we actually have like a lot of different accents, really, by city, town by town, all have a different accent. So it's interesting that Norway's like split into three, but even within those three, do the accents vary? Like the Eastern, is there like different Eastern accents as well? Tell me what you think about his accent. It sounds, I can really hear the differences between those three that he tried.
Close enough. Yeah. North dialect, they chop their words in half, it seems. It's a little lazier, for example. Like if I were to say Jeg kommer fra, which means I come from, that is the Eastern dialect. But in Northern dialect, they would just say Jeg kom fra instead of Jeg kommer fra. And there was a really old man in northern Norway that he would talk about. He had a very thick fisherman's dialect. Sweetest man in the world. He was so nice. But he would talk about Ja, det var vinteren i 99, og vi hadde det var 27 grader, og vi hadde 7 meter snø. Just talk about how cold it was, and the snow, and the terrible fish prices. I love talking to that old man. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so I've watched a lot of Norwegian videos, of course, so I've heard the Norwegian accent quite a lot, but to really hear those differences, those variances, it's really interesting. I'm going to try and pick up on that when I watch any future videos. And it's really interesting to hear an American use the language and still be able to tell the difference between those different regions, and to be able to speak in those different regions as well, actually, or those regional accents. So I actually really like that. It's a very, very insightful for me. Tell me what you think about them. Were they accurate for each of those regions? And tell me again, like, what do you think if you're from one? If you're from the east, what do you think about the west and the north? Tell me about the other ones in your opinion. Thanks.